Hello everyone, this is Roses and Water, and I'm here on behalf of the Fae Folk YouTube Reviews to review the Wattpad book, The Cursed Prince by Tris Fire. And already I'm super excited. Cursed Princes, that's like my thing. The summary of the first chapter of The Cursed Prince begins with Nova, who is on a mission in the 1st century, what appears to be Europe, in order to assassinate a demon that had possessed her friend's body. The cover is great. I really love the dark and sinister look of the palace in the background, hinting to the past, and the assassin Nova in the foreground, hinting to the future elements of the story. To begin, the grammar of the story in the first 3 chapters fluctuates a lot, but there are typically errors every paragraph. However, these mostly consist of missing commas, tense switches, perspective switches, which can either be easily glossed over in reading or easy to fix, so it didn't really impact the quality at all for me. The tense switches are the only ones that I really recommend getting on immediately, as they impact how the reader is viewing the story, and inside the book, perspective can switch from past to present pretty easily. This may be due to the fact that The Cursed Prince involves time travel, and tense can be difficult when characters are jumping from one era to the next, understandably. In terms of style, the author has a fairly good sense of language and skill, and the description is neat and clean most times. A way to diversify the language even more is to switch up the words. What I mean by this is that there are instances where the author will repeat words fairly close together, which can make the sentence redundant. Dialogue is fairly good and realistic, however the main character, Nova, feels as if she got dumped in old Europe without doing her homework, speaking like a 20-year-old kid nowadays, when in reality people would be using, people wouldn't be using slang like yeah in 1st century Europe. I mean, I assume. That is an assumption actually, because I didn't actually do my homework on that, but I'm pretty sure they didn't. But that's a very, very small thing, a part of it, so easy to fix up. In terms of style, the only thing that personally distracted me was the little information pieces in brackets. I am crazy, and those brackets get to me, so if you can delete those brackets, that would be great, but that is a personal thing, so don't let my craziness impact how you make the story. In terms of world building, the scenery is fairly well described. We get nice sentences in the palace about the overall decor and how, the magic of the moments and the little gossipy people everywhere. However, since the author is going for a 1st century feel, which is where the demon has gone since the magic in the universe is discovered in the 1st century, it feels more like 1600s to 1800s with the chandeliers and the terms of etiquette. The author has made a note of Roman designs of the building, however, a little more research into the area would clarify where the first 2 chapters are occurring. I think that was the only thing that I was really thinking about the entire time, but that's because I fixate on history plots, and that's something else. Anyone who is a stickler about history might be distracted, but for most everyone else, the descriptions are very regal and full of color. In terms of character and world building, the characters we see most of in the beginning of the book are Nova and Alex. Nova has been sent to kill Alex, and it's clear that they have a good chemistry, and it involves some really close ties, because at first Nova actually refuses to kill Alex. We have a flashback moment where we see Nova sees her stepmother and stepsisters in the past, and where she thinks of them and her father, but we don't really see the extent of those relationships, although there are some very witty lines strewing throughout the first few chapters there. Some areas I think could really help this book and bring it into its own is exploring the world building and a little research into the areas and languages of the places Nova goes to, as well as customs and stuff like that. It isn't necessary, but it could greatly impact the feel of the world we're dropped into, especially since it will contrast really well with the time travel aspects of going right back to the future. So we'll see that dynamic, and it'll be very exciting. For instance, one particular scene, when Nova finally does decide to end Alex's life, she pulls out a sword, and one of the guards tells her to put it down. Generally, in the early 1st century, the nobles and royals of those eras were heavily valued and protected, since it was established in many hierarchies and monarchies that they were descended or chosen by gods, and they were gods depending on the country. Realistically, the second Nova pulled out a knife near the prince, she would have been assaulted by guards nearby instead of told to put the knife down. For example, In 1757, Robert Francois Damien stabbed the King of France with a penknife while the king was getting into his carriage, although the king was basically unharmed and easily survived. The punishment for that was being drawn and quartered after several days of brutal torture. I'm not suggesting for this to happen to Nova. Oh my gosh, no. But she gets away so easily that the guards don't even apprehend her before Alex's change into the demon. And it's a little hard to believe for the times. All of this would change, of course, when she pulls out her high-tech future weapon, but up until then, the guards would likely treat her as a woman who had just stabbed the king, which is pretty, I mean, it makes sense for that time and era. For our last area of discussion, the originality, I think the story has its charms. The allusions to Cinderella, the other fairy tales, as well as the idea of time travel are all very cool to me, and it could result in really unique angles. The Cursed Prince passes. Grammar and tense errors could easily be fixed up. World building takes a little bit more time, but I think if they were slightly upgraded, even in the slightest, it would make the story even better. So yes, definitely a passing grade, and I really enjoyed the first few chapters, and I hope everyone enjoyed this review.